So now that Getsu Fumiden is finally out, I can start getting to a lot of the things that I feel like I've been putting off for a while now. I fell behind with Getsu Fumiden, and it kind of threw a lot of things in my life into flux. And before I had even gotten the video out, before I had even recorded the review, I feel like I had recognized that some things need to change if I'm going to get a chance at making and doing all of the things that I want to do creatively. I think about the channel all the time. If I have 12 different things in my head any given minute, it's a good possibility that the channel is going to be 4 of those. But I think about the channel in a way that is future facing, generally. I think about what I want out of it, what I want being a part of it, where I want it to go and how I want it to evolve. And I also think a lot about how it's difficult right now, not quite being where I want to be, but at the same time, how amazing it feels and grateful I am to have kind of officially exited obscurity. I feel like I am no longer so obscure. So while the iron is still hot, relatively hot, it's been a month, but while the iron is still hot, I think it's time for me to fill you in on everything that's been on my mind lately, and everything that I want to change, and everything I've recognized that needs to change moving forward. Because a lot has been going on behind the scenes, and I have sort of shifted my perspective a little bit. The first thing is I'm changing my approach to member content. I will likely be removing and or unlisting the preview type videos and the CRT playthroughs because they don't really represent what I want to do moving forward with member videos. Initially, I had thought of channel memberships in general as just kind of a way to passively support the channel. I never intended on making a lot of member content because I don't like the idea of making things so exclusive. But my feelings on this have changed as I've thought about what I want out of the channel and what I want to put on the channel. So videos like these CRT playthroughs don't really fit with what I envision moving forward because they're just kind of there. There's no real reason to watch them. Someone might have a passing interest in something like that, but it doesn't really, I don't want that showing up in my video tab when you click on the video tab if you're a member, because it's not really a video that belongs with the rest of those videos. And moving forward, while they're going to be probably shorter, my ideas for what I'd like to do with member stuff is projects that I want to work on that are smaller in scope compared to Retro Odyssey, that may be more interesting to the select group of people that has chosen to support me versus anyone who's on my channel who's mostly there for Retro Odyssey. And that's not to say that I never intend on uploading any other kind of video, because I have a lot of other kinds of videos planned for the channel that I desperately want to work on. But I think this member space is a great place for me to kind of experiment and grow my video making consciousness a little bit, because I know how to make Retro Odyssey videos, but that's kind of where my whole video making experience is limited to. And if I want to make other kinds of videos in the future, I think it could be helpful to work on these kinds of little ideas that I've had in my head, some of them for years, and kind of put them up there and get some feedback and provide like a little something special for people who have chosen to support me. And another thing that I've been working on is my health. This is my first year of dadhood. It's my first year of being a dad. In between taking care of my family and my full-time job, I found that the most limiting factor for me in terms of getting more done with the work that I want to do is exhaustion. The thing about exhaustion is that it's well within my means to improve the way that I can tackle a day with my own health. And that's where discipline comes in. The truth is that I haven't had the level of self-discipline that I feel that I need to have. And that starts with me, and it starts with my physical well-being. I need to prioritize getting rest, eating better, losing weight, fasting, lifting. I want to get strong, I want to get strong. But I'm not there yet. And I think that feeling better is one of the easiest ways to improve your energy level. And with a higher energy level, there is more that I can tackle within a day, realistically, without feeling exhaustion weighing me down. Discipline's an important part of that, but it's also about being able to follow through. I need to be able to count on myself to do what I say I'm gonna do. I have been somewhat unreliable to myself for the past year and a half or so, and it kind of hurts to say, but too often I default to what absolutely must get done in a day, and that leaves me with sometimes a span of 2 or 4 days where I'm not making any realistic progress, like working progress on the things that I feel like I want to do creatively. So I may spend hours and hours a day thinking about something, but it builds up in my head and I fail to get it out in the way that I need to. So I need to improve my energy so that I can effectively expel the sort of creative blue balling that goes on in my head based on the different responsibilities in my life. Because I truly believe that it is my creative projects that are going to improve my life and the lives of those around me and my family and everyone close to me. And if I can't be disciplined enough to work on these things consistently when I have time to fight off exhaustion, I am failing myself in a sense. I'm not trying to be a rise and grinder over here, but I have very real things in my head that I want to articulate. And this pace of one video every 4 to 5 months is not going to be enough for me to get anywhere close to everything that I feel I need to get out into the world. So I need to get myself in a place where I experience less exhaustion. And a few things have already been in motion on that front. I've lost a decent amount of weight since I sent you Nicole. Not a ton of weight, but a decent amount. And right now I'd say I'm probably at roughly the same place where I was when I filmed the review for Getsu Fumiden. It's kind of fluctuated. My body fat needs to go down, my body muscle needs to increase. And rest is also another important factor. When you're a new parent, sometimes rest is something that is difficult to find. It's a precious commodity. But I've been kind of blessed in having a very supportive partner who is definitely doing everything she can to make sure that I have enough rest to tackle a day. So it really does fall back on me. But I've also been experimenting with floor sleeping for the past 3 or 4 months now. And that means what it says. I sleep on the floor on about a 4-inch thick cotton futon. I threw out my old bed. Part of the reason was because my bed was 17 years old. It was wildly uncomfortable. I needed a new one, but new beds are just not within my budget right now. So I got a futon instead, and I looked into it a lot, and my rest has absolutely improved. But as I've sort of adapted to that, bad habits can kind of kick in again. So it's the point I'm trying to make is that I need to get healthier so that I can do a better job for myself, for my family, for everyone who watches my videos, because I think it's important to make more, because not just for the sake of growing the channel, but because I want to make these things. And if I can't make more there's just too much that I feel like I'm not going to be able to get out. So that's why my health is more important to me right now. Fixing my exhaustion levels, my energy levels. Now, directly relating to Retro Odyssey is the way I'm changing my approach to how I'm making Retro Odyssey videos. Contrary to how it may feel, sometimes you really do have to force yourself to make progress on creative projects, even when you're not feeling particularly creative. Something I've had to learn over time is that forcing yourself to work on something isn't going to make it bad. That's always the fear. At least that's what the fear is for me. I've discussed this a little bit in my members-only community posts about Getsu Fumaden, but I had a bit of writer's block for about a month on Getsu Fumaden. And what helped me push through that was forcing myself to write it over and over. It took multiple complete scraps, but by putting myself in that mode, by forcing it with the time that I had, I was able to eventually break it and then start to get things that started to sound kind of good. Working on these things is like working with clay. I'm getting my hands dirty with the writing. I'm getting it dirty with the editing, with the color, with the gear, with everything. And you just kind of keep pressing and molding it until you arrive at something that starts to resemble something in your head. Sometimes it's something that you didn't even see in your head. You start to form new sort of connections and strings as it grows into what it becomes, but it's a process of working on it. And so you have to exercise it like a muscle. And with me, forcing it is something that needs to happen sometimes. Some of my favorite videos, I just kind of forced myself, I pushed through. And I'm still awaiting the time where that actually makes it bad. And what that has helped me also realize is that goals that are hard dates for things don't work for me personally, because as I am molding things and changing them, sometimes I realize I want to take things in a different direction. And in order to do that, it takes time. So what I really need to be doing is stressing less about these actual dates and setting these up, setting myself up to fail, to feel awful when I don't meet them, and focus more on increasing just the hours that I work on things. I need chunks, big chunks of uninterrupted time. And they're not as hard as you might think to find for me in my life. Like with all the things that I mentioned are going on. Not your situation, your mileage may vary. But what I discovered is that it's not a good way to approach things saying, I want this video done by this date. I want the intro edited by this date. I need to work at things, and sometimes I need to switch what I'm working on. I just need to provide myself with large enough chunks to get in the zone. Part of that's discipline, and part of it is recognizing how I need to spend my time. Retro Odyssey episodes take over 100 hours to make. So what it is about is not focusing on where each little thing needs to be done and micromanaging that, but taking that 100 hours that's spread out over time into roughly 18 to 20 weeks and shrinking that down to hopefully somewhere closer to 6 weeks. I think that is a more realistic goal to start with. And I recognize I will not be hitting it with the holidays and everything coming up, but that's what I'm working towards. If I can get it just 6 to 8 weeks at first, and then hopefully closer to 6 weeks, I think that's going to help me feel better about myself and better about moving forward and tackling other kinds of things. Another thing I plan on doing is kind of experimenting with changing some of the titles and the thumbnails on my existing content to maybe match a little closer the sort of aesthetic that I've arrived on for the last few videos, which have done a lot better than all prior videos in terms of reach and views. Watch time isn't always as good, and part of that is just because when you're reaching new audiences, they're not sure what to expect. And honestly, Retro Odyssey is kind of a formula that not everyone's going to get right away. It's different. It's not the same. So I fully understand when people watch it and they don't really quite understand what's happening. For current season videos, it's not going to mean too much. There's something I've been doing with Aisenshi Nicole and Getsu Fumiden where I take the character from the box art and I actually separate that out and I push it forward, and it kind of makes it pop a little bit more. So I may be experimenting a little bit with that on some of the season 3 stuff. And the other things that will not change are the first 6 episodes of Retro Odyssey, because to be honest, I've thought about unlisting them for a while, and I'm not going to do that because it's an important part of the channel's history. And some people have reached out and gotten something out of and really enjoyed those videos. So for posterity's sake, I think it's worth it to leave them up. But in my mind, the video in which I discovered what a Retro Odyssey video was the Zelda 1 video. That's the first video I made where it follows the general structure of a Retro Odyssey video. Retro Odyssey is vastly different than I ever envisioned it being at first, both what I tried to make it first and what it ended up becoming. Going back to that clay thing. But as for the first 6 episodes, I think I may remove them from the Retro Odyssey all chronological playlist and instead start it off with Zelda and everything else onward, because I really believe all of the videos from Zelda on follow a similar enough structure that anyone who enjoys one Retro Odyssey video could get enjoyment out of at least 50% of those. But the first ones, I'm not sure everyone could get enjoyment out of them. And this is not something I really need to be worrying about, but I just think if someone clicks on that and they want to watch something from the beginning, they'll still be there if you really want to. But if you want to watch something with a consistent structure, start with episode 7. Episode 7 is where I view the beginning of Retro Odyssey proper. And there are individual things that I really like about each of those 6 episodes. And I've even toyed around with the idea of remaking them. But I think my focus needs to be on more things pushing forward versus fixing things that are already there. Another thing I've been wanting to do for a while is get back into streaming. And I've mentioned this, but the issue with streaming on YouTube is it's annoying. YouTube puts streams at the top of your subscription feed. So if you're streaming often, you're constantly placing yourself right in front of like everyone's subscriptions on top of it. And that's more of a YouTube UI issue. And I believe there is an option that you can check to not post to the subscription feed. I'll have to look into that a little bit, but in general, that is annoying and I understand it, and it causes people to unsubscribe. And if you want to be a streamer, then you want people who don't want to see you stream to unsubscribe, because it's going to kind of curate your subscriber base into something that is more interested in what you're doing. But I'm not trying to be a streamer. It's just something that I like doing for a few reasons. The first is that it gives me an excuse to feel productive and play games that aren't having anything to do with my current series. Modern games and between now and past games. But I feel this past year I haven't played enough games, and I feel more detached than I've ever been with the current landscape of gaming. The most recent game that I've actually played through that released this year all the way is Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, which was that massive DLC. Now, I beat the whole thing. I really enjoyed it. Elden Ring is still, I have mixed feelings, but it was really something special. It really was. But I need to be playing more than that. I want to be more in touch with what is happening, even though I personally believe it's actually more important to continue getting in touch with what came before me. But streaming is an interesting way to approach that. And I also think the other thing I like about streaming is having a way to interact directly live in a conversation-like setting with subscribers and commenters and anyone really. It's fun. I like that sort of live connection, and it does make me a little nervous sometimes, but I feel like I usually get over it. And I'm not sure if this video will come before or after or during my planned Ocarina of Time stream, which I haven't mentioned too much about. But I'm at least going to start things with YouTube, and then I may move it to where there's a members only stream on YouTube, and on Twitch there's kind of a general stream, because Twitch is where people go for streaming. So it probably makes sense to do that, even though I don't want to bother with any of the affiliate or whatever. I want to keep stuff on YouTube for the most part, but if I'm going to stream more, I may need to do it on Twitch if I don't want to annoy anyone, because I genuinely understand that it is annoying to some. But I think every now and then, like maybe 4-ish times a year, a stream on YouTube can be fun. It really can. Just as long as it's not an everyday thing. So there's two main things I want to talk about before the end of this video. And one of them is about YouTube and like the reasons why I do it and why I enjoy it. And how I've noticed that there is this distinct separation. There are these two camps of people who do YouTube, and like why they do it changes. The general idea is there are people who do YouTube because they seek out the lifestyle of a YouTuber. And there are people who do YouTube in this other camp who do it because they want to make something they believe has real meaning. This probably sounds pretentious. Fuck. I don't know. I just want to express that there are these two camps, and you can see these differences everywhere in different channels. Some people get into YouTube because they want to turn it into sort of a Twitter feed where they get to make random videos all the time, just shouting out their opinions, not even fully thought through, for the masses to just watch and to make money from that. So making money from sharing your takes. That's why some people get into it. And I'm not gonna lie, sounds pretty sweet, right? But there's a clear difference between that sort of YouTuber and the kind of YouTuber camp that I feel like I fall into, where I am making something. I am trying to make a show. And not just a show that, like I've said so many times, there are other kinds of videos I want to make. I desperately want to make, and I need to do in between Retro Odyssey. But what can sometimes tie these things together, what these two camps do have in common, is everyone, I think, would love to make a living doing something like this, doing something that they're passionate about, or doing something that is not a typical job, doing something that allows you to create and make things. That's why so many people like working with their hands. That's why I personally am interested in things like farming in the future. There are things that I want to make in the future that are not just videos. But I think I need to do this first. This feels like what's been placed on my heart first and foremost. And I feel like most of my creative energy ought to be dedicated to figuring this out and continuing this, because I love that feeling of making one of these videos and looking forward to how people are going to respond to it and the kind of comments I might get, or if people are excited or impressed, or if it brought them back, or if it taught them something new about something they didn't know about, or even if it made you look at the same game and maybe view it in a slightly different way. I think this is all important. A lot of what this is for me is it's about my journey. Retro Odyssey is not really a review series. It's more just like a chronological journey that I'm taking to better understand video games for myself, that I share as I complete them. It has kind of ballooned out of proportion into something that I didn't initially envision it being, but I love what it's become. And I think these videos are cool. I try and make each video with the idea that I've already got like a huge amount of subscribers. I put that level of pride and effort into each one, because I'm not gonna lie, I want 100K. I really do. I want the plaque. Like, I have wanted that for a long time, and it's just, it's partially about how you get it. Like, I don't want it from chasing it so much. I want it from doing things that I really view as important and good. Like, I want it to be real. I think you can just buy 100K if you really want it. And I think that they even gift out the plaque if you cheese your way to it. But there's something about the actual natural growth that's happening that just like fills me with this sense of vigor and determination and excitement. And it fluctuates. There are highs and lows. Like, Getsu Fumiden was both, because I worked so hard on that video, like so hard. And when I finally published it, I was so close to my breaking point that I actually did kind of break. I broke down, like ugly crying, sobbing. And it was just because it was so much, like getting everything so close to the way that I really wanted it to be. And it was twice as successful at first. Day one is my next most popular video. So it's like there's this euphoric feeling that can come along with that. But there's also this crash that can come after. One, if your serotonin's just spent and like you just feel like a zombie the next day, almost like a hangover. And two is, while it had its most successful day one ever, day two, because I published it later in the day, but most successful 24 first hours ever, it fell off harder and faster than my last two videos. And like, I had people kind of reaching out to me and saying like, you know, this might be the one, because I have a lot of excellent and amazing friends that I've made through this kind of journey on YouTube so far. And like, a lot of them have at least one hit video, you know, 100K plus views. And I still don't have that. And so like, you know, like I didn't expect it. This video still did much better than my expectations. But what happens sometimes is if something's exciting enough and kind of on an upward ramp enough, it can kind of puncture this barrier that you build up over time making videos on YouTube. And you start to let yourself hope, like in an unrealistic way, like, this could be the one, this could hit, this might bring me to 10K subscribe, you know, like all this stuff. You get excited. And then when like, you know, it's like, and then just like, you know, levels off kind of into nothing. And actually lately there's been kind of a dip in views on the channel. Now it's still way higher than it ever used to be. And it's always important to remind yourself of these things, because like a lot of this is talking about the future and talking about the past and the present. It's this mixture of excitement and longing and want and genuine gratefulness and thankfulness. Like, I can't tell you how badly for 2 years of uploading videos, I wanted to hit a point where I could get half this amount of views on like day, like in the first week as I've been getting. The last 3 videos, over 10,000 views in like a week and a half's time or whatever. Out of control. And I understand too that these are really obscure games. There's no reason for someone to click on something like that. And I'm kind of a weird looking dude. I don't really like.
If you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in.
I don't know. Oh, I've gotten a decent amount of comments complaining about my hair, which, by the way, it's not a side ponytail. I have so much hair, and it's just most convenient to put it up like this. I live in Florida. It's hot. I like to keep myself cool. I might do a bad comments video, or I guess rude or inappropriate comments eventually, because I've been stockpiling a few. But back to the main point of this segment. What even was the main point? I think I just wanted to rant a little bit about the process of making videos on YouTube and how I feel like I really want 100K subscribers. really badly. And I have for a long time, and it's kind of something embarrassing and not cool to admit. But on the other hand, I don't want to compromise my vision for the kinds of videos and the things that I want to do in order to reach that. I'm not gonna change what I'm doing to chase something. I want to build something that's lasting. I want to build videos that people can come back to and enjoy for years and years. And that have their own sort of unique flavor to them, that aren't the same as every other video about these games. Even though I think it really is always good to have more people creating and more people making, videos talking about these games, because while they get talked about a lot in circles of people who grew up with them, I think there's a place for a renaissance of people discovering older systems and older games. Because when it feels kind of dry and stale and the pay to win sort of reality of this like current gaming landscape that feels so divorced from what it used to feel like, I think that a lot of people they don't know what they're missing when it comes to these incredible games that came out before I was and a lot of these other gamers were born. So this has already gone on way longer than I anticipated, and I apologize for that. But one more thing to touch on is that I've purchased a domain and I'm going to be creating a website soon. Not something crazy, not something that's going to take a lot of time. Just, I feel like I need a website is kind of like a bank to post things and keep track of the history of this channel outside of just YouTube, to organize my links, to potentially and hopefully provide higher quality downloads of the videos that I've created, because I save them. I don't just upload them and delete them. I can't afford to keep all the footage because we're talking terabytes of footage per video. I record in a very uncompressed file format, but you get the idea. Overall, I just wanted to give you some insight as to what's been going through my mind regarding the channel and Retro Odyssey. I didn't expect to take a full year to get through only half of one season of Retro Odyssey. I'm really proud of the videos that I've put out so far. I think every single video for season 3 has been like to the best of my ability at the time. But what I'm not happy with is the gaps in between, and that's what I'm trying to address. But I thank you so much for sticking with me and supporting me, even through these periods of inactivity. If you're here for just a little bit, if you are here for 1 month, any amount of time, if you are gifted a membership, if you just watch the channel, I really, really appreciate it. And I feel like it indicates a certain amount of faith. And I appreciate you believing in me and believing in what I want to do and accomplish with these things. So, thank you. And I'll see you soon. Peace.
Yes.